When the governor's daughter is taken by pirates, Will Turner, the blacksmith, needs to team up with another, more eccentric pirate that goes by the name of Jack Sparrow. Sorry, Captain Jack Sparrow. But not all is as it seems, as the pirates seem to have been held under a mysterious curse which has made them undead. The movie will start making you ask the questions: why was this movie made? How was this movie made? How did Jack get off of the island? And
why is the rum gone?
This is my uneducated opinion on Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl. Weirdly enough, I never actually watched the Pirates of the Caribbean movies when they came out, considering that it has had such a massive impact on pop culture in its high point, compared to the other big franchises that has come out, like Star Wars, Marvel, and Indiana Jones, and probably other Disney projects now. And it's also strange to think that this movie came from the idea of the theme park ride itself. And why was it made, you think? Money? That's all it seems to be nowadays. I think it's literally just money was the reason why the theme park was made into a movie, because the attraction was so popular. Let's get the easy stuff out the way with the characters themselves, because it's hard to think about talking about this movie without talking about the iconic performance that is Johnny Depp and the other characters involved in this movie, like Elizabeth Swann, Will Turner, and even Captain Barbossa, which we'll go to those in a minute. Jack is certainly the type of character that you'd make within an RPG if you were to spend all of your resources, pop it into the luck skill. I think most people would agree that this has got to be one of the most iconic openings to any protagonist put to screen, from when you have Captain Jack coming down into the harbour bay and stepping off of his already sinking ship. I do love the performance that Depp gives to this role, as he gives off this drunken, inexperienced and clumsy manner of going about things, but I think there's a subtlety to it as he gives off this deception of looking bad in order to get an edge of his foes, even though there is a lot of other cases in the movie where he is genuinely that fucking stupid. From giving that taunting fighting style against Will Turner in the blacksmith workshop, to using Will Turner as leverage to be able to get his ship back, and also using this sleight of hand to get one of the medallions out of the chest at the end of the movie. As much credit as rightfully so has to go to Johnny Depp in giving this performance, you certainly have to give a lot of credit to the writing team themselves, because of how well they perfectly balance giving the seriousness of Jack Sparrow as a character to also making him as much of a bumbling buffoon as he is, compared to a lot of the later movies where they lose that balance. Other characters that I think are absolutely fantastic in this movie is the likes of Elizabeth Swann, who isn't necessarily this damsel in distress. She has a lot of intelligence and courage about her, which is showcased in the likes of her trying to parley with the pirates when they initially make contact, and that goes back to setting up her when she shows a lot of interest in the whole pirate culture at the start of the movie when she picks up the medallion for the first time. But obviously it can only take her so far, because she's not totally experienced in the world of pirates, as she does slip up a couple times using the name of Turner, thinking that it's going to be a good idea, but it just shows her naivety in a lot of cases. Keira Knightley does a fantastic job, and I think this is one of her first roles that she's done. She also did Love Actually the same year that this came out, and I do believe that her first role was actually in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, where she plays one of the decoys of Princess Amidala. Also, Orlando Bloom as the character of Will Turner, as he struggles to come to terms with the fact that his heritage includes the likes of pirates, which completely goes against everything that he had been grown up into believing. And how could I possibly not go back towards Captain Barbossa, who was portrayed by the absolutely fantastic Jeffrey Rush, and he is unbelievably incredible as the main villain of this movie. He oozes so much charisma and personality, and I love the amount of speeches that he gives throughout the entire film. Him going on about the codes being more guidelines, and the entire sequence about the reveal of the curse on the Black Pearl. And that goes on to what I want to talk about with the practical effects and the visual effects on this movie, which is just phenomenal. There are certain times when it doesn't look totally on point, but given the fact that this movie came out in 2003, it's just such an amazing thing to see how well it holds up. And just like you probably noticed within the previous Uneducated video that I made, I get very easily hooked into the storytelling and movies themselves when it comes to visuals. I get so entranced with how good things look. If the fight choreography, the visuals are spectacular, whether it is CGI or practical, and even the costume designing, which I think is phenomenal in this movie. And it started making me think in the year 2003, surely this won a couple of Oscars, whether it was special effects or costume design or even art direction. And then I had a look. Yeah, it had no chance, really. The amount of unique set designs that they had within this movie, from the likes of the fight within the blacksmiths, of them balancing on this turntable sort of thing and balancing on the high beams, and then also going underwater and then using the upside down little lifeboat, which I think I remember they actually tried to myth bust that. And no wonder that everything looks so good in this movie when it comes to the visual effects, because the visual effects supervisor was John Knoll, who did the likes of Hook, Mission Impossible 1, Ghost Protocol, Star Wars 1, 2, 3, Rogue One, Ready Player One, The Batman. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that he is pretty good at his fucking job. I don't think you can go into this movie without obviously talking about one of the greatest things about it, which is indeed the score, which was composed by the great Klaus Badelt and obviously the legendary Hans Zimmer, who I think originally wanted to do the main composition for this movie, but he ended up obviously going off and having some parts to do with this movie and the sequels in general. It gives that sense of wonder and adventure, and even like the sea shanties that go with the music as well in this movie. I've become obsessed with them, and I even started listening to another music writer of Cole McGuinness, and he's done covers of other sea shanties. He recently released this album of the Calm Before the Storm, and I've just had that on repeat when I've been making food and other household chores and crap like that. Again, I sort of have to go back to the big moment where the curse is revealed for the first time. I mean, properly, because I do know that there is this one moment where Captain Jack is in a cell and someone reaches across to his throat, and you see a little bit of bone there, and it gives that sort of mysterious thing to it. But Captain Barbossa giving this whole monologue and the appearance of everyone on the ship. I'm not exactly the biggest horror nerd out there, but I really am a sucker when it comes to good horror and creepy imagery when it is really done right in movies just like this. I believe that there might have been one instance in where I think the movie sort of over explains itself. For example, the moment where Elizabeth Swann gives her blood and a medallion into the chest and the curse isn't lifted for the first time. It should really make you start thinking that, oh no, it's Turner. We know that his dad is the pirate and it's in his blood. But they sort of explain it again, and I don't feel as though the movie needed to. But I feel as though the mark with a good movie that it doesn't really make you think about the plot holes that often, and it makes you brush aside them. You can forgive little instances like this. However, there is this one moment which I thought was incredibly messed up. So, Will's father was the one that took the medallion in the first place, which then brought about the curse. So he would have been affected. And it's also explained that his body was dropped at the bottom of the ocean into Davy Jones's locker. He wouldn't have died. So he would have just been drowning in a constant state for, what, 8 years? That's kind of messed up. And also, Will lifting the curse, finally, that is what kills him. So his son is the one that kills him, finally, after 8 years. Ugh. So the budget was on a reported $140 million, which again is phenomenal how good this movie looks considering there's a budget of that size compared to other movies that came out that year or in around that time. And it finally grossed in theaters approximately $654 million, broke the bank, and that's why they started making this into a massive franchise, and somewhat more successful than not. And I want to try and keep this trend of my uneducated opinion series by looking at the trailer of when it came out and see if it holds up to today's standards, or whether it gives the movie away instantly, just to see ultimately how good it is. So let's give that a watch. Okay, yeah, that trailer's a lot better than what I initially thought it was going to be like. It doesn't give away too much, it shows you exactly what you're going to be getting yourself into. Yeah, decent trailer. Of course, I would recommend this movie to anyone that hasn't seen it, and if you haven't, what are you doing watching this? You should be going watching it. I've just given a bunch of spoilers, which, I mean, that's your fault. This movie's been out for like 21 years. Credit obviously goes to the writers and the director, Gore Verbinski specifically, and obviously the cast and crew involved with this did an amazing job, made it look incredible, holds up massively. What did you think of the movie? If you have seen it, give me your thoughts down below. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. It's actually quite daunting to see that my first video on this, the Iron Man one that I just did, is actually my most viewed, which is probably why it's taken a while for this one to come out, because again, I'm procrastinating, and again, don't know what I'm doing. You shouldn't take my opinion as yours. You shouldn't listen to me, ultimately. I mean, it's nice for you to hear different points of views, but ultimately, try and make an opinion for yourself. That's what I want to do. Just give mine, have a conversation about it, what you liked, what you didn't like, and we'll see you for the next one. Alright, I think that's about it. Take care. Bye.